forward to the last session before lunch. Most of you will be familiar with RAAST, the instant payment system in Pakistan. So just to tell us a bit about their journey, I'd like to invite, I think it's Daniel and team, to take us through this final session just before lunch.
So hello everyone, my name is Hina Hamid and I'm representing the State Bank of Pakistan here. And we'll just discuss today a little about our journey, how we implemented IPS in our system. We'll also introduce a little about our market, our demographics, and how we tried to implement a solution that best met our needs and the needs of our market, keeping in mind the growth for the next few years. So I'll start with the demographics. So we're a pretty big country with a population of over 241 million people, with more than 51% female population. As you can see, the penetration of mobile and internet usage is pretty big in the country, and also the age distribution is pretty much inclined towards a younger demographic. The financial inclusion is more than 50% in our country, and the remittance is one of the major factor in the calculation of our GDP. We do have our national identity system, and majority of our country is basically registered on that national ID. So it was very swift for us to tag people with transactions through our IPS system. So yeah. On the remittance side as well, basically cross-border is one of our important aspects of implementation of an instant payment system, so that was also kept in mind while designing the system. Moving on, this is the picture of the basically retail payments landscape in Pakistan. As you can see, majority of the payments are by volume are happening through digital mediums. However, if you see at the value, the majority of payments are happening through branches over the counter. So as you can see, 88% of the total documented retail payments in Pakistan are digital, while the other 12% is happening over the counters. And when I say over the counters, it includes bank branches and agents as well, which basically take cash against processing an invoice or a bill. What were our challenges to start with? So just one detail I would like to mention, which wasn't mentioned in this slide. We do have another digital payment platform in the country. It is interoperable. It works on the legacy 8583 messaging standard. Most of the banks were connected with it. Still, because of the pricing, because of the market dynamics, the cash was still leading a majority of payments happening in Pakistan because it was convenient. In Pakistan, the most easiest medium to buy something, to pay something, was just taking out paper money out of your wallet and just paying then and there. The user experiences were not that swift, were not that convenient. That is why the cash was ruling all over the place when we started the feasibility study for an IPS in Pakistan. And then, yes, there are trust issues. Still, it's a relatively lower on the documented side of economy, so people were preferring to transact in cash. There was a fear of taxation, and all those elements were there, which were prohibiting the digital transactions initially. And to basically overcome these challenges, we tried to put a centralized, publicly owned, with the trust of central bank. We placed this central system in Pakistan. On the slide, you can see this is our marketing campaign. We tried to basically display and present all of the segments which were very dependent on cash-based transactions, or the segments which were basically having difficulties doing digital payments through the conventional mediums because of the prices or the cumbersome UX. So as you can see, there are women business owners here, there are small merchants, there are delivery guys which usually take cash. So by introducing RAAST, the free instant payment system, we basically tried to cover this leg first. Okay, I'm not sure why the design principles aren't coming up, but let me just describe it. The design principles are based on the level 1 principles, which were which basically drive all of the design in terms of the business model and also the technical implementation model for RAAST. These are the use cases, the major use cases, which we like to call the rails or the tracks for RAAST. The first one, as you can see, is the bulk payments. We started with that. And then we moved on to P2P and the merchant payments. So why did we start with bulk? Because we first implemented the G2P use case for RAAST, the government to person. The logic behind it was the government pays salaries, pensions, and money, puts money into the people's account. When they would have money on the first leg, then they would start spending. They would do transfers to each other, and then they would buy things from that money. So we started from the G2P and then moved on to P2P and P2M. For G2P, believe me when I say this, we have all type of animals in the zoo when it comes to the government departments. So to deal with all those departments, to enable them disbursing and collecting payments, we did an extensive work, both in terms of design, both in terms of working models, and we have enabled almost all of disbursements, our federal disbursement, provincial and district disbursements through RAAST. They're all digital now, they're all traceable and happening instantly. Earlier, it used to take T+7 days for someone to receive a payment from a government. It could be a vendor payment, salaries, and final settlements would also take that much time. And it all happened through paper instruments. Now it's all digital and happening through RAAST in real time. Person-to-person payments, we'll also share the statistics with you. In RAAST, the person-to-person payments settle within 17 seconds. So the design is kept in that way that at the center, if the payment is not clearing through the switch and the bank is not confirming that they would settle and credit the customer, we at the center basically cancel that payment. So we're very proud that we work on that payment happens now or never, and the customer gets to know. So that the people having a poor connectivity, they wouldn't just retry and end up sending a transaction twice. We make sure that that doesn't happen, and we try to make sure at the center of the system. Then comes the merchant payments use case. It's relatively new into the landscape for RAAST. We have implemented push payments, and we have also introduced the request to pay rails for merchant payments. Then we are working very actively towards the third-party payment nation, which is the PISP initiative. Then we have a couple of value-added services available as well, which include merchant directory. We are very actively working towards a fraud detection system. We're trying to explore and engage Tazama for that. We're also exploring other entities which are basically offering AI-based fraud detection systems. So that is that in the merchant space. So it's a little bit detail on what products and services have been built on those rails which we discussed, the bulk, the P2P, and P2M. So as you can see on the top, the bulk disbursements majorly cover government disbursements. It also handles the disbursements of dividends from the corporates, from other big companies. We do have onboarded our central depository company in Pakistan, which basically handles securities and also dividend disbursements. They do disburse all of those funds through RAAST. There is a very interesting aspect to the bulk rails of RAAST. We offer all our clients a pre-validation of a payment. So if you want to pay to a particular beneficiary, you can have this guarantee that the account you're paying to actually belongs to that beneficiary. So there's a pre-validation against the person's national ID number, and there's a pre-validation against that entity's taxation number. Because in Pakistan, companies are registered through a taxation number and people are registered through a national ID. So if my corporate or any of my employer wants to confirm that the account I'm paying henna to actually belongs to henna, they can just do a pre-validation against my national ID number and then disburse the money to me. So that was a leap for us in terms of transparency for dividend disbursements as well as for government payments. Then in P2P, there's another interesting aspect. We, in the previous sessions yesterday and the day before, we were discussing about shared infrastructure. So we do have a central directory we do register all of the RAAST IDs, which is basically an alias. So if you want to pay me, you don't need to know my account number. You may have my contact number saved in your phone, so you can just like do the transaction on my mobile phone number. And that information, that my mobile number is linked to this account in this bank, we maintain it centrally. So it basically is efficient, it's faster, and it does also provide a certain level of control in terms of alias squatting or holding on fraudulent IDs. So yeah, that's that. We'll come to the statistics as well. It is pretty much interesting in terms of how many individual customers we have onboarded on the RAAST ID. So P2M was the most functionality dense rail we implemented. We have push payments to a merchant's alias. We have push payments available to a merchant's account number, the international, the standard IBAN number, and also our legacy account numbers in Pakistan. We have push payments on the merchant static QR code, push payments on the merchant's dynamic QR codes. We have request to pay available, 2 variants of request to pay available. One is request to pay now for invoices which basically last a little bit shorter. Deliveries, instead of cash on delivery, when a merchant basically sets something out for delivery, they wouldn't create a request to pay to the customer. When the rider arrives, you can just confirm your order and then accept that request to pay. It gets paid and it gets finalized in the system. Then there is request to pay later. It's for the invoices which may span for days. For example, your utility bill payments or any other type of invoices. So that is request to pay later. That is also available in RAAST P2M suite. Then we are very actively working towards third-party payment initiation. PISP is, in terms of technical implementation, we are done with it. The last mile, where we onboard the participants, or as you call DFSPs, we are working very actively towards that. There are a lot of complexities involved in it in terms of standing instructions, in terms of embedding this functionality on, let's say, e-commerce platforms. So we're very actively working towards it. In terms of Rails, in terms of how the communication would happen through the ISO 20022 messages or the value-added APIs, we're all done. But the integration part is currently in progress. Then there are value-added services. We do have a title fetch service available. You can enter any IBAN and get to know the title of that account. You can look up the alias. You can pre-validate any account. We have also implemented some private value-added services for the taxation authorities. They're very specific to the businesses, which basically are trying to pay sales taxes. So yeah, that's also there available through the platform. And this is also a question. I hope we get to discuss this with the community later, that we also want to bring in the information exchange, either for the government platforms or private sector as well. We want to include it into this infrastructure stack. So I don't need to go have bilateral arrangement with multiple institutions of if I have very frequent information sharing with them. We want that to happen through RAAST, leveraging all of the secure infrastructure we have. So yeah, that's a very summary of what features we have available in RAAST P2M and overall. This is a very brief representation of the market segments we are serving. From an individual consumer to merchants to government departments, we do also support fintechs and other entities through indirect participation. We're also serving non-banking financial institutions in Pakistan. So we recently did a very interesting implementation on RAAST P2P Rails that was investment into mutual funds. So in Pakistan, investment into mutual fund become a very hefty process. You have to open an account. It was a lengthy procedure. And then when you try to deposit funds, you have to write a paper instrument and go through a little bit more formalities to actually invest. And then taking it out was also a different kind of a story. So what we did, we enabled asset management companies through an aggregator. and we enabled them to generate pseudo IBANs. And then whenever they wanted to invest, they would just push payments onto those IBANs, and it landed into the asset management companies. And we tracked it through the pre-validation that there's no funny business going on. The money is being pushed into the asset management companies' accounts. And it all happened in real time. People are happy. And they're primarily those people which wanted to invest very small ticket size. So yeah, that's that. Okay, so yeah, this is the performance. So as you can see, the central directory I mentioned, we have more than, now I believe it's approximately 48 now. So these are all individual customers. Our central addressing scheme basically works on the one-to-one principle. That is, I can only register one RAAST ID, which would be my mobile number, against my one national ID. So all of these number of RAAST IDs you see here, they're all individuals which have been enabled to receive payments through RAAST. And they're availing that to the fullest, as you can see. And we do have a good number of participants. When we went live with our G2P case, we only, I believe, had 4 participants. One was the sender, and the 3 were recipients. And that number, basically, it went through the roof in the next 1 year for the bulk receiving. And then we started enabling everyone on P2P. We do have a participation criteria, which is very inclusive. We do require them to have certain set of guidelines, to have a certain level of governance as a company, be registered with the other regulator, which is the Security and Exchange Commission of Pakistan. But there's no such roadblock if someone is coming through a proper channel to us. We have a very fair and objective criteria to onboard participants, and we obviously do look what use cases or business cases they want to offer, if there's any novelty in it. But it's very rare that if someone comes with a compelling use case and is following all of the very basic prerequisites, we do provide them access to RAAST, either directly or indirectly. And yeah, that's why you can see there are a lot of participants in pipeline. We do have a significant merchants registered with us. So the number of merchants registered, you see, it is basically the merchant which either has a RAAST ID, or they offer a RAAST QR-based payment, or they're enabled on the RTP. So this is like the whole sum. But these many merchants are very actively using RAAST services to receive payments and serve their customers. So on average, yeah, we do process more than 7 million transactions per day, and it's increasing, and we are very looking forward to a tech upgrade very soon. So after implementing all that, that is how we fit into the whole landscape. We are in the center. We are talking to all of the entities, and we are also talking to the central bank's RTGS system. All the settlement happens through the RTGS. We work on a pre-funded liquidity model. That is why there's a very close coordination. All of our indirect participants, as you can see, mentioned over here, most of them come through a sponsor arrangement. Sponsors have basically current accounts in the central bank, which are visible to them through the Prism Plus system. And the indirect participants leverage on their liquidity for their settlements in RAAST. Moving on, so this was our adoption strategy. This is how we tried to roll out everything, and it is like, it's basically a representation of how we started from left to right. Everything started with a mandate because nobody wanted to join the party first. Why? Because there was already a switch parallel in the country. It was basically a consortium of 12 institutions. They were making good money, and it was pretty much meeting the market's requirements when it came to the P2P transfers. But obviously, when you dig deeper, you identify that on legacy systems, there's only so much you can build upon or improve, or there's only so much you can implement in terms of new business cases or models. It's just always like putting another layer on it, try to integrate it, making the design ugly, and things like that. So when we were designing, we just realized that without central bank's mandate, nothing's going to happen. So we engaged the industry very early on. All of our use cases, when the design phase started, we invited all of the prospective players and tried to get their input. that imagine if you were implementing this system, what would you want the design to have, the system to have? So other than the pricing, we were pretty much aligned on everything, and the design was very inclusive, depending all of the market needs. Yeah, and we're moving towards it. We are doing actively marketing campaigns to engage customers now. The name of Central Bank of Pakistan does basically incites a level of trust in the people. That is why we see a lot of P2P transactions. Also, there's a trend that very small merchants, they don't really get registered as a merchant, and they just start using the P2P rails because it's easier for them, it's convenient, and because our main focus is to drive digital adoption, we're not really minding that. So if a very small merchant is receiving small payments in their wallet for very small goods they're selling on the roadside, we're fine by that. Okay, I'm not sure why this is not showing my text, but let me just speak out. So challenges, yeah, everyone calls them challenges, but we like to call them opportunities. So every challenge is just another opportunity, another area of improvement. So these are the areas of improvement which as of now we are very actively working towards. The way forward for us is basically the drive which is coming from the very top. Our Prime Minister is actively running a cashless economy campaign, and as the public infrastructure sitting in the middle connecting most of the financial institutions and government departments, we are engaged and we work with him every step ahead. And we are basically trying to have all of the interactions, all of the stakeholder engagements on the behalf of the government. We also try to accommodate as many technical change requests as they have. We also interact with the stakeholders the last mile, because there's only so much in the center we can do. There's a lot that our participants do on our behalf. So at the central bank, we're also managing and running it through under the RAAST umbrella. And this is what we are trying to do for the future. So as of now, what is missing? We are missing a good bill payment module. We are missing a good e-commerce integrator. So we are missing maybe a very good fraud detection system at the center. We do have one, by the way. It's very basic and rule-based. So all of those missing things are opportunities of improvement for us. They're on our radar, and we are very actively moving towards resolving that issue. There's a reason that is why we are also exploring this community, that how can we extend all of that missing components and include them in RAAST through the help of this community, and build it together for others to use as well. So there was a lot. I just skipped, and maybe I was going too fast. I just tried to sum up the ocean into the drop. There are a lot of learnings throughout the journey. There were mistakes which we covered, and we documented those as well. And those learnings we have documented in the form of a toolkit with the help of our partners here. So they'd present that, and I'll be happy to take any questions and describe anything further. Specifically the text that went missing, I don't know how and why. So thank you, that's all from me.